A young lady was taking golf lessons and had just started playing her first round of golf when she suffered a bee sting. Well, the pain was pretty intense, so she decided to head back to the clubhouse to get some help. Well, the golf pro saw her headed back and said, "Hey, you're back early. What's wrong?" Well, she says, "I was out there and I got stung by a bee." "Oh my gosh," she says. "Where'd you get stung?" "Well, it was somewhere between the first and second hole," she said. He nodded and said, "Wow, I'll tell you, if you got stung there, your stance is way too wide." One Sunday, while counting the money at the weekly offering, the pastor of a small church found a pink envelope containing $1,000. Well, it happened again the next week. Well, the following Sunday, he watched the offering as it was collected, and he saw the old lady put a distinctive pink envelope in the plate. Well, this went on for weeks until the pastor, overcome by curiosity, came up to her. "You know, ma'am, I couldn't help but notice that you put $1,000 a week in the collection plate." "Yes," she said. "Every week my son sends me money, and he tells me to give some of it to the church." Well, the pastor says, "Well, that's wonderful, but $1,000 is a lot. Are you sure you can afford it? How much does he send you?" Well, the old lady says, "He sends me $10,000 a week." Well, the pastor was amazed. "Well, your son's very successful. What does he do for a living?" "Well, he's a veterinarian," she says. "Well, that's a great profession, but I had no idea they made that kind of money. Where does he practice?" Well, the woman answers proudly, "Well, in Nevada. He's got 2 cat houses, one in Vegas and one in Reno." There was a tourist on vacation driving by a Texas ranch when he accidentally ran into a calf that was crossing the road. Well, the driver went up to the owner of the calf and explained what had happened. He then asked him how much the animal was worth. Well, the rancher says, "Well, about $200 today," says the rancher, "but in 6 years it would have been worth about 900. So $900 is what I'm out." Well, the tourist sat down and wrote out a check and handed it to the farmer. "Well, here's a check for 900, he says. "I went ahead and post-dated it 6 years from now. You can cash it then." After living his whole life in the remote wilderness of Kentucky, an old man decided it was time to visit the big city. Well, in one of the stores, he picks up a mirror and looks at it. Well, not knowing what it was, he says, "Well, how about that? Here's a picture of my daddy." Well, he bought the picture, but on the way home he remembered that his wife didn't like his father, so he hung it in the barn, and every morning before leaving for the fields, he would head out there and look into it. Well, his wife began to get a little suspicious of these many trips to the barn. Well, one day after her husband left for the fields, she searched the barn and found the mirror. Well, as she looked into the glass, she fumed, "So that's the ugly hussy he's been running around with."